Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are doing really great this afternoon. I'm doing a members only live, and it's going to stay members only. I'm not going to make it, available afterwards to everybody. So, welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. Um, I want to talk about FLDS and this idea of cultism as it relates to uh, Chad and Lori, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. Um, it's one thing to kind of go through. It's one thing to kind of go through and hear all of the evidence, hear what they're talking about. Most of us that are following it, we've been watching it for years, right? Since 2019 into 2020 was the first rumblings. And so I know on our channel we've paid a lot of attention to this from the very beginning. Um, it, it's interesting though, because in the beginning we look at it like sort of like the Chris Watts case, where you think Lori's this normal, regular, good mom, and really a lot of the testimony has reflected that she did prioritize her children and her role as mom. Um, and then things went off the rails. They really did. So she did a great thing with JJ, and she brought JJ into their home and treated him like he was her own. Um, and so it was. I think the family was in shock when she began to respond in such a bizarre way. This was before she met Chad and Melanie. Um, that they recognized that her faith had always been very important to her. She was raised in an LDS Mormon home. Her dad was one of these who he didn't believe that the United States government should have dominion over him. He got in a lot of trouble for not paying his taxes. He wrote a book on how do you avoid paying your taxes. So she grew up with a lot of these influences on her anyway. Um, and and even though she's got quite a colorful past, she got herself into a lot of marriages and a lot of trouble and a lot of bad stuff. Um, I do think that she was raised with this belief and this idea that, you're special, you're better, you're different. And the more you know your scriptures and the more that you can talk about God with God as God, then greatness is out there for you. And so, in some ways, I have to wonder, is that why there was just this continual exchange of husbands? Was it always this idea that, okay, well, this husband is going to bring me my greatness. This one will lead me to something special. At the heart of narcissism, everybody wants to talk about narcissism and point out and say, well, person is narcissistic and this person is narcissistic. But you're only focusing on the outward negative relationship type problems with narcissism. You're ignoring the engine for narcissism. And the engine, the thing that drives narcissism, is a person who, for whatever reason, they do believe that they are destined for greatness. They do believe that somehow maybe they're better than others. Maybe they come from a very wealthy family. They think that predisposes them to greatness. Maybe their parent is famous, and they think kind of by proxy they too are going to be given that adulation, and then they never reach it. They never get there. They recognize that somehow they're quite lacking in whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing, and so they can become almost frantic, trying to get that. That's where the mask gets developed. Um, And the mask is there, the persona, the facade that they create for us, that is so that people don't see the weakness, so that people do not see the brokenness. And I have to wonder with Alec Cox if somehow that was what the whole stand-up comedy thing was really about, was that, you know, he didn't have an identity. The closest thing he came to identity for all intent purposes was somehow it was his job to protect Lori, and Lori was the special one, right? And that made for a really sick and unhealthy relationship. And I know a lot of people have been a bit disturbed and felt like that some of the things that Alex's wife, ex-wife, had come out and said. A couple of other people, Zach, Adam's son, had commented that some of the things about Alex and Lori may have even, let me say it this way, that maybe Lori was manipulating her brother with sexuality. Not that anything was actually taking place, but it was more of flirtatious kind of, teasing. So I think definitely from way before Melanie Gibb and Jason Mao and Chad Daybell, way before Preparing a People, Lori was already set up and primed for the cult-like life that she and Chad began to develop. She was already primed from that, I think, from her family of origin. And there's some other things about it, but I don't want to, get bogged down in that. So now I want to share, hold on. Here it is. Okay, so the way that I want to do this, and I thought, I was going to go into Camtasia, and I was going to just make a video that I produced and edited, and whatnot, taking clips from these different videos. And I thought, wait a minute, no. I don't want to do all that, because it ends up taking literally hours and hours. And really what I want to do is just hang out with y'all and talk to y'all. So what I'm going to do, and this of course is going to kill the ability to monetize the video, but that's okay. I think what I want to do is I want to use this video that I found on YouTube, and it is by watchmojo.com, and they do a lot of these like top 10 horrible fashions or top 10 most violent females. No big ups. Just behave. Okay. So in this particular video, they did 10 of the most disturbing cults that are still active today. And they actually start out with the one that I believe, I'm telling you guys this, okay? I truly believe that Chad Daybell was looking at Warren Jeffs and his father, the way that they set up the FLDS, Fundamentalist Latter-day Saint. I don't know if they say of or for, but it's the Fundamentalist of Latter-day Saints. And this organization came about when the LDS, the mainstream religion that we call Mormon or Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, when they came out and said, you know what, we're not going to do any more of this polygamy, no plural marriage, no celestial, what do they call it, covetousness. We're not going to do that anymore, because regardless of whether their religion was doing this, the law of the land was that polygamy is illegal, and there's a lot of reasons why it's illegal, and Warren Jeffs ended up teaching us why it's illegal. One of the things that could go wrong. There's a lot that can go wrong with it, but this was one of the things. So please understand, people, we have subscribers, we have members of this channel that are LDS, they're mainstream Mormon. I have some friends that are LDS. This is not about Mormons. The FLDS is a whole different ball game. For one thing, all of the ladies dress like Little House on the Prairie. There was a period of time in the FLDS where the ladies really loved red, and so that quite a few of them. And then Warren said, no, you can't wear any more red clothes or dresses or scarves or anything. So I don't know why, because later on Warren was watching pornography and hanging out in the Marriott with his sister wives, and they were all doing the freaky deaky in a weird way. So, Warren Jeffs, I think it's very clear that while his father was a godly man and a believer, I think Warren Jeffs simply saw an avenue to power and control. I think he was hungry for the money that came with being the leader of the FLDS or the prophet. And he manipulated his way in. And he destroyed people on a level that is as shocking as can be. I am of the opinion, I do not believe that Chad Daybell is a godly man. I'm going to say it right out here. I think Lori believes quite a bit of what she said, or at least she started out that way. I think that she does suffer from a fair bit of narcissism, and that because she was longing, she was so desperate for her role as special to somehow emerge, and she was convinced from childhood that her role as being special was going to be related to her beliefs, her religious beliefs, that it was just a train wreck waiting to happen. That when she ran across Chad Daybell, who was looking toward religion after meeting Julie Rowe, after seeing how much money that Julie Rowe was raking in with her silly nonsense, and I'm sorry if you like Julie Rowe and you follow her, but I think she is exploiting people. I can't back something that I think is fundamentally exploitative. So I think when he met her and he saw what she was doing and how easily she was manipulating people and benefiting financially in a huge way, that is when, according to Garth and other members, other friends, that is when suddenly Chad decides that these books of fiction, they were written and marketed as fiction, what it might be like during, the tribulation and end of days and all that. After meeting Julie Rowe and seeing the money that was coming in, suddenly, according to Garth, Dad's books were no longer fiction. They're the real deal, and he's got special powers that other people don't have, and that he can, give blessings, and he's the right-hand man to God. So, but again, I don't believe that he believed this. I don't believe it. I think he grew up in a way that he felt less than. He felt like he wasn't as smart as his brothers, that he was not capable of doing what others did in terms of building up a career and a business and a home. And that he, you watch his body language when he walks. I mean, he walks kind of like, oh, don't look at me, don't talk to me, like that you can definitely see from childhood. His book comments, that he felt like he was completely all alone, that nobody accepted him or understood him or loved him. And so for him, I think his was a dependent type personality, and he learned from Julie Rowe he is unprincipled and unethical and immoral because he was hurt. He was hurt and he was confused and he never measured up. So this was a train wreck. The minute these two came together, they were feeding each other's unhealthy motivations and beliefs, I think. And we ended up with Chad Daybell. Once he got into this and began to command power, people from Preparing a People and whatnot, or from his ward, they were listening to him, to his stories, and they were believing what he was telling them. And I mean, sooner or later, he's going to run out of content, right? Sooner or later, he's got to keep coming up with magical, mystical things that can be tied to the Bible, tied to the Book of Mormon, tied to the believers. And I think he stumbled across Warren Jeffs. I really do. I think he was listening to some of these recordings online. It is very similar. It is very chilling. There's also some unusual guru types that are in Hawaii that perhaps affected or influenced, maybe influenced Lori, and maybe that was part of the reason that she kept dragging people to Hawaii, dragging people in this group, Preparing a People, taking them to Hawaii. Was she taking them to these people for these teachings and letting them listen? Because it got really weird very quickly. This was a lot more than just imagination from the Chadster. You know what I mean? I don't think the Chadster is smart enough to come up with all this on his own. I just don't think he has that type of creative, cognition. So let's listen. This is the top 10 cults that are actually still in operation today. And I want to point out, number one, specifically about the FLDS, or the Little House on the Prairie Girls. We're going to start with that because I think they were a big influence on Chad and what he ultimately became. But then listening to the other 9 cults that they highlight here, there are some real parallels. And we can see not only are they similar to one another in terms of how they control people, but Chad and Lori were doing the same. All right, so I'm going to be quiet now, and we're going to listen to the first part. Let me make sure it's all turned up. All right,
exactly what he wanted them to be.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 disturbing cults you never want to meet. For this list, we're looking at bizarre cults that are somehow currently active. There are inactive cults that are far more sinister, such as Jonestown, but we'll save those for a different list.
You would be sworn in as a member, and you would also swear not to reveal any of the going-ons inside this group.
Which of these do you find the strangest? Let us know in the comments below. The Rajneesh movement. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, a controversial philosopher.
Now, let me say this. This is sort of a hysteria. Sometimes you can see this with some mainstream religions too, where they use dance and speaking in tongues, and they kind of work themselves up into this hysterical type of movement and an altered state of consciousness. And then the preacher, they will interpret this that the person is in contact with a celestial being. So right off the bat, this first cult, they're using what is commonly seen like in the Pentecostal church as well as other fundamentalist church.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, a controversial philosophy scholar and professor, founded his movement in the late 1960s, early 70s. He dismissed established religions and instead focused on free thought, meditation, and sexual freedom.
And what? Oh, sexual freedom. Okay, so there's songs written about this, right? The 70s had a lot of this whole free love kind of thing that I guess in a spiritual way, replaced organized religion. But here's the problem, okay? Sex creates changes in the enzymes and neurotransmitters in the brain. It's a drug. Can we agree? Sex is a drug. It's a very powerful drug. And certain types of neurotransmitters or enzymes or hormones that are released specifically through the act of orgasm or intercourse, we call those the bonding drugs or the love drugs, right? What is it? You're going to get in trouble for exposing the marmots? I don't know what the hey just Robbie. I don't want to do that. I just want to talk about Chad and Lori, but I'm with you. It's Robbie. I know what you're talking about. So sex is a very powerful drug. And what you're going to find out as we go through these 10 cults, they're all using sex. Now, later on, I'm going to play a video, an audio of Chad Daybell, and you're going to have a very hard time convincing me that Lori Vallow is not pleasuring him as the audio is being recorded.
Now, there are two ways. Either repress sex as it has been done by all the so-called religious traditions of the world, or transform it. I am for transformation.
He is for transformation so he can use it to control people. Why does he want to control people? Because you have to give them your money.
Oregon in the early 1980s after attracting too much controversy in India, yet found the same hostilities in the States. In order to gain political influence, the movement committed crimes such as mass local salmonella poisoning and an attempted assassination of a U.S. attorney. He was then
So these were really good people, weren't they? So spiritual and religious that they are going around and poisoning people that go and eat at restaurants. And this was a crazy group. But ultimately, overall, it was about sex, subjugation, and profit. And this is the guy who took all the money home.
For him, he will sit in his chair, take an injection, and disappear.
the Order of the Solar Temple.
The order attracted many successful upper-middle-class people, disillusioned with conventional churches, yet hungry for spiritual experiences.
These were people that were very well educated, and many of them came from old money. This is a crazy cult. But again, it was this backlash against traditional religion and hoping to be a part of something more significant and even looking for a magical element. They found it historically with a historical connection, but ultimately they didn't want the mainstream, put your best clothes on, put your suit and tie on and go to church on Sunday morning. They wanted something bigger, something that was more special because they themselves were special.
Order of the Solar Temple, or International Order of Chivalry Solar Tradition, was founded in Geneva in 1984. The order took its influence from the Knights Templar, which had been reformed into several factions in 1805. In its heyday, the order had a presiding council, as well as multiple lodges around the world, in which they would perform initiation rites and ceremonies.
Only the elite, who had passed all the initiations from novice to knight, were treated to the secrets of the inner sanctum. Here, they were privy to startling revelations.
The order believed that an apocalyptic event would occur sometime in the mid-90s, and that...
Okay, so this group, what looks like the Knights of the Templar, they believed that the end of the world would come in the 1990s. Chad and Lori's cult thought that it was going to happen when? 2022. Why is it that these people that convince others to give them all their money and they're having all kinds of freaky deaky sex, and it's always this message that, oh, the end is coming anyway, so let's make ourselves stand out and be special so that we're the only survivors. It's sort of like all of this is being engineered by a Hollywood producer, a Hollywood director, and the ultimate goal is you get to be the star in your own movie.
That in order to survive, they had to achieve a higher plane of existence. In the mid-90s, over 70 of its members were murdered or took their own lives.
Investigators say the cult was obsessed with death and considered it an illusion. Experts say cult leaders told their followers that fire would lead them to a new world on another planet.
With more to follow.
Oh gosh, fire. What do we know about Lori? Lori told the other ladies, which I think were sister wives, Lori told the other ladies that there were only two ways to protect the body and prepare the body so that once you get rid of the old zombie, the new zombie can't come in. And it was fire, burning, right?
Despite this, the group is still thought to have between 140 and 500 active members. Raelism.
The Raelians, now 30,000.
Now, if you guys don't know this, these people are all over the internet. They believe this stuff, y'all. It's a bunch of them, too. I don't know what the official number is, but it doesn't take long to find people talking about Elohim and Raelians' teachings. They believe it. They're full on in. All over Twitter, all over YouTube.
Strong worldwide believe that space beings created humans through genetic experimentation.
Though its classification as a cult is sometimes debated, Raelism was, or is still, at some point in the cult category. It's essentially what's called a UFO religion, and was founded in France by Claude Vorilhon in 1974.
It's not only the scientific aspect of creating life, but also the political, religious belief, sociology, everything is. We are entering a new world which is completely different. But there is no reason
a better world?
A much better world.
They believe that an alien race known as Elohim created humans. The Elohim have been mistaken for gods historically, and any prophetic figure, such as Jesus or Muhammad, was created by them. Vorilhon, known as Rael, is the 40th and final prophet. Followers believe that the world is in an age of apocalypse, and that new technologies must be developed, after which time the Elohim will return to Earth and share their extraterrestrial knowledge with us. Current Rael.
So I think the Elohim are angels. I think that's the word that they're giving for what would be angels, but angels are aliens from other planets.
Alien members were counted at around 18,000 in 2017.
The Rail movement has two goals. One is to spread the message, and two, to build the embassy.
Aleph.
Inside, sect members were undergoing survival training. Chemicals and drugs were used to raise, then remove states of anxiety.
Now you see, do y'all see how every part of this we can pull out and match up with what Lori and Chad were doing? And what I'm going to say this again. I'm not going to name names, but I'm convinced that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow were not the tip of the spear. They were not they are not. I believe that there is a group, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. I believe that there is a larger group, and that Lori and Chad and what they were doing, Melanie Gibb, that they were tools, that there was somebody bigger was driving this, and they were dangling this carrot in front of Chad and Lori. Be special. We're going to make you special. We're behind you to make you special. And their narcissism set them up perfectly for this manipulation. Now, that's my own personal opinion. In no way does that mean I'm right. It's simply, I mean, if you want to call it wild speculation Friday on Saturday, we can do that. But I don't believe that Chad nor Lori would have had the hubris to do what they did without feeling protected. Someone made them feel comfortable. So here we got people using drugs so they can practice the end of time, survivalism. You remember my video not long ago that I did on the prepper movement? That what Lori and Chad, what this group preparing a people, they were absolutely driving the prepper movement. There was $95 billion in MRIs, fake food. Well, not fake food, but, you know, dried food. These cults are using tools and methods of mind control that are effective. They're used by the U.S. military, making people uncomfortable physiologically with extreme anxiety, water torture, starvation, injecting norepinephrine. All of these things are used to get prisoner of wars to speak, to give information, to become an informant, to begin to identify with their jailers. It's all used. It's effective.
Shinrikyo, or more recently Aleph, was founded in Japan in 1987 by Chizuo Matsumoto, later known as Shoko Asahara. It's a doomsday cult, and its beliefs combine aspects of Indian and Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism, Christian millenarianism, yogic practices, and the prophecies of Nostradamus.
The religion.
And again, it's always this, the end of the world is coming, and you better follow me and give me your money so that I can teach you and prepare you and keep you safe. It's criminal. This is fraud on a massive scale.
And were responsible for the attack on the Tokyo subway in 1995, which left upwards of 1,000 injured. A number of the more prominent members were executed in 2018.
They were making
there were
sarin
still
gas.
indications of active membership as of 2019.
About 20 members live here, an austere lifestyle driven by the desire to spread the master's teachings.
Hello, everyone. This is Shoko Asahara.
12 tribes.
If you're not in, you're out. If you're not with me, you're against me. If you want to have a strong identity, create a strong enemy, and then you can really know who you are.
Founded in Tennessee during the evangelical Jesus movement of the 1970s, the 12 tribes might seem like a simple, wholesome community on the surface. It aspires to recreate the original Christian church, as depicted in the Book of Acts. However,
and that is also what was at the heart of FLDS when they broke away from the mainstream Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When the Mormons said, we're not going to do plural marriages anymore, we're going to follow the law of the land, FLDS separated. There were a bunch of those groups that pulled back and became very fundamental and said, you know, we are following the old religion in a pure and systematic way, and we're not going to let the law enforcement tell us how to live our lives. We're not going to let them come in and manipulate us. So FLDS is actually built around the idea of celestial marriages. It was built in that you did not get to be at the highest level of what do you call it? Exaltation, unless you had 3 wives. So that's the basis of FLDS, where the mainstream Mormon, the Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, they're saying, no, of course we're not doing the plural marriage thing. We're done. No polygamy, no polyamory, none of that. We're following the law of the land, and we're going to follow our Bible and Book of Mormon. But FLDS is actually built around polygamy. That the idea of 3 wives or more is required for you to basically reach the highest level of, heaven. Kind of crazy, isn't it? So they're using sex, FLDS, they're using sex to control the people that are in this cult. And listen, this is what so people don't understand. You and I look at FLDS and we're just sort of horrified. We're just thinking, what's the point? Why do you want to live like it's the, early 1800s? Why would you want to do that? Like, how is that better than just being part of the mainstream and enjoying all of the modern things that we have? The reality is that there were and are men that are in FLDS who they have doctors of science. They're engineers, they're biologists, there's physicians, and they are FLDS with multiple wives. Some of them are mechanics and business owners, but these are people that are making a lot of money. And guess who gets the money? It's hard to believe that you've got someone smart enough that they can that there can be a pilot, or they can get a PhD in, mechanical engineering. It's hard to believe that very same person will turn around, make $150,000 a year, and give it all to the church, and live in a house that the church lets them live in, but can take away. They can take it away from them at any moment. And one of the ways that FLDS is able to control them, one of the ways that Warren Jeffs was controlling them, was by giving them brides. So as these old guys were aging, if they were big money makers, then they got their pick of the females. They were being manipulated by sex. On the one hand, Warren Jeffs was saying, if you want to be an exalted being, if you want to be on the same level as God, you're required to have 3 wives or more. So here they are, they're aging right along, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of age, and they keep getting 20-year-old brides. And sadly, under Warren Jeffs, it turned out to be 9 years old and 10 years old. They found 12-year-old little girls that had babies when they went in the what they called Zion here in Texas.
Allegedly exerts authoritarian control over its followers' lives and promotes strict corporal punishment, reportedly by parents and non-parents alike, which has led to accusations of child abuse.
Tessa remembers being sent out to work on her own when she was just 5 years old.
Sometimes working in kitchens, like preparing food for the whole rest of the community, or in like candle factories. So I remember being like 4 or 5 years old working with this boiling wax.
Once followers reach a certain level, they're allegedly instructed that Jews are cursed for murdering Jesus, that gay people should be put to death, and that black people are naturally servants to whites. The group has often flown under the radar, but there's a lot more going on beneath the smiling and folk dancing.
They control your logic and your thinking, and they control your money.
Happy Science.
So Happy Science have so many teachings that you can learn about them. So that is a lot of wisdom you got learned.
Founded in 1986 by former businessman Ryuho Okawa, Happy Science focuses on a fourfold path to happiness. Members of the group attend seminars and training in order to climb the group ladder. They worship El Contari, a being.
Now, do you think that this guy, a businessman, right? He's a businessman. Do you think that this guy has learned to exploit people that are living in depression, that are overwhelmed by symptoms of anxiety? Look at his logo. The name of the cult is almost, here's the prescription or the registered trademark for the science of happiness. I'm going to teach you how to be happy. He actually capitalized making money off of people's depression, off people's mood disorders. This is immoral and unethical as anything I've ever seen. It's an obscenity, truly.
Its current incarnation, which is, of course, Okawa himself.
Ryuo Okawa. This guy's the supreme god of earth, more powerful than Jesus, Allah, and Moses combined.
In Hawaii, I preach that Buddha is one of my brothers. He says that Buddha was his brother, Jesus was his brother, Muhammad was his brother. And he's preaching this in Hawaii.
ブッダも魂の兄弟の一人で、ブッダも地上に送り込んだ。2500年前に送った。
So I believe this. I believe, just like this guy, Chad Daybell learned, if I can lie to people, if I can just make up stories that are just nonsense, I can get their money. I can get the power and recognition that I've always been so hungry for. This guy's a businessman. He's running around. He's trying to look for a product that he can put online and sell and make a profit. And he realizes, my God, everybody's trying to do that. I'm never going to get rich. What's the biggest that they'll teach you? What is the one thing that people use the most of? Right? That's one of the things I tell you when you're trying to look for something to sell as a part of Amazon or whatever. What do people use in their daily lives? You should always sell some kind of soap because everybody needs soap. You can convince them to buy expensive soap because we all need it. We all use it every day. So this guy is looking around and he's like, well, I mean, everybody's depressed. Everybody's got a mood problem. Like everybody is looking for a way to feel better. I just gotta lie and convince them that if they do what I tell them to do, they won't be sad, they won't be anxious, they won't be angry anymore. He made millions of dollars doing this, y'all.
The problem with this one comes in the form of major uncredited claims. For example, that the organization can cure the pandemic with, quote, spiritual vaccines. Okawa's own son has left the group and subsequently denounced his father's actions. Happy Science claims to have 11 million followers. However, a former member has said it's more like 30,000.
There are membership fees, there are donations for prayers, for blessings. Members may kind of rise in status based on donation to Okawa and his larger project.
The Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, please, that word, fundamentalist, that is everything. I am not addressing Salt Lake City. I'm not addressing the Mormons. That is Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. We're talking about the fundamentalist church that broke away when they ended polygamy, They're in Utah, Arizona, and then how I came to be interested in this is actually they're in South Texas, not about an hour and a half outside of San Antonio. This is the craziest group of people and the most heartbreaking situation that I've really ever heard of. And even though their fearless pedophile in chief is serving a life sentence in prison, they are still out there living this type of life, willingly being exploited, working to put all their money in the coffers of Warren Jeffs and his brother. He's now made his brother, oh, well, my brother's the real prophet, not me. That was all a, joke, haha. And these people follow because it's multiple generations. They don't know any other way of life. Now, some have gotten out. Some of the men were exiled and said, you got to go away because, I only want to save the girls for all the old men who are willing to do my bidding. We don't want you young men that will actually love them and value the girls as, people. So you got to go away. And so there have been some young people that have been able to get away from, get out of this, but then they're left with a life. There's a lot of alcohol and drug abuse. There's no education. They have no training. They have a very difficult time trying to figure out how to live in this modern culture. It's really, really heartbreaking. And I am convinced that Chad Daybell was immersed in this crap, and this is where he got his ideas. I believe it in my heart.
Every aspect of this family's life, who they marry, what they wear, even what they eat, is controlled by the man they call their prophet, Warren Jeffs.
The LDS Church spawned some fundamentalist sects when the core religion opted to renounce the practice of polygamy. Those who wished to continue the practice branched off, remaining Mormon but on their own terms. Polygamy remains illegal, however, and in 1953, an entire FLDS community was arrested in Short Creek, Arizona, modern-day Colorado City, and most had their children taken away from them.
We were taught from birth that in order to get what they called the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, you had to have at least 3 wives while you lived.
So this guy that's talking now, that's actually one of Warren Jeffs' brothers, but he saw how crazy things were getting, and he said, no. This is not religious. This is something else. So he had backed away from it before it got crazy. Like Zion, Warren Jeffs built a huge temple just outside of San Antonio, called it Zion, and they were taking the children from Arizona and sending them to the location here in Texas and not telling the parents where they were. And the parents were allowing this. In some instances, it was the father that was letting them take the children, and the mother was just heartbroken, So this still going on today, y'all. It's still going on. They try. Every now and then they get raided. It's really disturbing.
Lived on Earth, and if you did not, you could not reach that highest degree.
A compound in Texas was raided in 2008 after Child Protective Services was made aware of allegations of abuse. Over 400 children were taken from the compound and placed in CPS custody.
Now listen how interesting this first raid was. There was a hoax phone call, and they believed that the hoax phone call was made by a young man who really was in love with one of the girls, and she got carted off to Zion. And somehow he knew what this was all about. And that he made this hoax phone call, right? Well, the people around town had been watching while this temple was being born, and they were thinking, this Texas, right? We got to fast track to the death penalty here. We don't get all bogged down in this. Oh, it's religion. Let them do whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter who they harm. That's not really common here. And so the people around town, the law enforcement, they were watching this, and they were thinking, that is not this is looking really odd. The people out there, they're not communicating. They don't smile at you when they come into town to buy food. What is going on? And so they were all really watching, but this United States of America, you just can't go into a compound with guns blazing. Well, I guess they did with the Branch Davidians, but that was another decade. And so they were watching, they were kind of waiting for the opportunity. Well, they ended up getting this 911 call and said, well, not 911, but a phone call saying that there was somebody that was being assaulted. And so they did take that opportunity then to go in and say, okay, here we are with a no-knock warrant. Someone's here being hurt, and we want to know what in the world is going on. Well, the women were not talking. The men were standing back almost like a security detail, right? Watching. Made the cops really nervous. They were very disturbed. They said they felt like it was in a really dangerous situation that they were in based on the body language of the people and the formation that they took. And ultimately, they go in and they see all these little girls, 12, 13, 14, 16, and they've got babies, little babies. The 14-year-olds are feeding the babies. They have milk. And so it was that allowed them to then take custody of all these children. Now, no one was admitting to it. And the cops were going, I'm sorry, I have doctors at the hospital telling me that there are 13 and 14-year-old girls that are breastfeeding many babies. So where did the dads come from? Like, where are they? Who fathered these children? When the initial raid, it's not like that now, but the initial raid was nearly all, a handful of old men, and then so many women and children, so many. So that was the raid in Texas was a game changer, and Warren Jeffs knew that. He went on the run. But they all kept giving money. He built this enormous giant temple, made it look like, the streets of Cibola. And he was running around in this sex-crazed, drug-fueled, frenzy. He was ultimately caught. The cops in Texas, the cops went into the temple, and they did find their way with the help of some of the girls that had defected. Some of the girls that had reached an age where they figured a way out and they were living in town. And the girls were flown in, and they told them like what happened in the temple and where you could find certain things. And they had a safe that was in the temple that the locksmiths could not open. It was so secure. Ultimately, after weeks and weeks and weeks, they finally broke the code, and they were able to get into the room that this safe was, guarding. And this idiot, this monster, this sick human being had recorded these sessions where he was training 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old children how to do group sex type stuff, and was making it a religious observance. So they thought that, it was like, we go to Mass or church and do the Lord's Prayer. He made that, he manipulated them. The parents, the mothers were in the room with them in some cases, because the mothers had gone through the manipulation as well, and they all believed that it was simply a religious observance. Now, isn't that a nightmare? An absolute nightmare. But again, remember what I said, sex, orgasm, intercourse, it causes your brain to release certain chemicals that it's drug-like. It gives you an altered state of consciousness. It's very rewarding. It feels very, very good. And it makes you want to repeat the behavior. And so these monsters, they're using sex to control the people that are in their cult.
We felt like the children out there on the property were in danger, and that's when it became a very large operation.
Leader of FLDS, Warren Jeffs, remains in his position despite being in prison for life after acts against minors. The sect currently has between 6,000 and 10,000 followers. Superior Universal Alignment, the second UFO cult on this list. Superior Universal Alignment, or Lineamiento Universal Superior, was founded by Valentina Giandraghi in 1981. She claimed to have received messages from extraterrestrials warning her of destruction. If, however, she shared their warnings with others, she and her followers would be saved. Similar to the Raelians.
So you notice how these all have these parallels. They're all the same. There's the sex element. There's the money element, which I think is the ultimate goal, the power and the money. But also there is this danger, end of days, and being with us, we teach you to survive. Being aligned with us, you will survive. It's all the same. It's always the same.
Sua believes that Jesus was actually an extraterrestrial messenger. They also believe that males born after 1981 are evil, and that their lives should end as payment to the superior beings.
What? There you go. So they're killing little kids. They're killing little kids.
Between 1981 and 1993, 19 Brazilian boys disappeared, were mutilated, and left to die in the woods. The guilty cult members were sentenced, but Giandraghi was acquitted. The cult is still active and has been running a website since 2009. The Family International.
Berg preached to the hippie generation about Jesus and recruited them to join him in his all-consuming drive to save souls.
The Children of God, more recently the Family International, was founded in 1968 by David Berg and was immediately subject to controversy as it used sex to lure potential members, which was Berg's own invention, which he called flirty fishing. They established colonies worldwide, as many as 130 in 70 countries. The Family International draw their beliefs from the Bible, yet with a heavy emphasis on loving Jesus, which is done through sexual interaction. Over time, there have been a large number of child mistreatment allegations raised against them.
Reportedly, keeping children is a cult policy. While longing for her 4 lost children, Vivian lived here in this small apartment in Sioux Falls, disoriented, unable to hold a job, and subsisting on welfare.
Celebrities such as River and Joaquin Phoenix, as well as Rose McGowan, were partially raised in this group before finding their way out. TFI is still active, albeit as an online community, boasting 1,450 members.
Isn't
we
that
were trafficked.
crazy?
We were moved constantly. We were never taught anybody's names. So it's very difficult to learn your abusers' names. And
You think that was by design?
Oh, absolutely.
Before we continue.
Isn't that crazy? Do y'all remember that whole pizza, what is it called? Like Pizzagate thing. Do y'all, it's been so long ago now. I'm not sure that I can recall the whole, the facts around that. But do you remember the whole pizza, Besta pizza, and there were people that showed that like John Podesta was seen, am I remembering this right? That he was seen near the resort where Madeleine McCain went missing, and that Sigmund Freud's son was with Podesta that week that she was gone. All these connections with these famous, powerful people. You think about Epstein and even, Prince Andrew of the royal family. And of course, you're heavily penalized on the internet if you say anything about these things. They say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist, and all those. And of course, we're not conspiracy theorists, we're conspiracy realists here. I don't necessarily believe all that. I just think it's a incredibly interesting story that came out. There's an awful lot of things happening in Hollywood with this whole MK Ultra thing, and we've got documents from the Canadian government and the United States government that prove that we were doing MK Ultra early on, and it's supposed to be gone now. But I thought when I was listening to this, I thought it was so interesting. Here is Megyn Kelly. She is interviewing a woman who is saying that when she was a child, she was trafficked her family was a part of this cult, her mom and dad, and that she was given to rich, famous, wealthy people to be used. Why should we not talk about this when you have people that are willing to come forward and say, this is what happened to me? It's happening. Even in today's world, it's still happening. But it's really frowned upon for anybody to, bring it up and talk about it. And yet, this was one of our, this was one of the top 10 cults. It's very scary.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your offered classes called Executive Success Programs. In 2007,
and
Nexium.
Again, Nexium was another one with rich and famous people.
Is the umbrella company.
Founded in 1998 by Keith Raniere and Nancy Salzman, Nexium started out as a self-help group which offered classes called Executive Success Programs.
The people that were involved in this cult who were using sex and subjugation and bondage and torture and starvation to control the girls, the members, these were well-connected, well-known, top-tier families in the United States. This is terrifying. And they used sex, and he made money, and there was bondage, and there was sexual abuse. It's terrifying.
In 2017, former members urged authorities to investigate, initially for a subgroup within Nexium called The Vow. It was a group of women branded with Raniere's initials.
The Vow or A Vow?
And on a rotation to have relations with the founder and recruit members.
You think the person who's being branded should be completely nude and sort of held to the table like a sort of almost like a sacrifice? I don't know if that's a feeling of submission.
In a sort of exceedingly...
And he told these young women that submitting was the ultimate form of control. That when they would submit, that they were embracing their feminine mystique. And so to allow themselves to be mistreated and abused was actually at the height of their femininity. Now this guy right here, his IQ topped out over 152. He learned how to manipulate people for cash. There's so many parallels with Chad. Chad Daybell's not smart enough to come up with all this. But this guy is. And all Chad's got to do is just listen and learn.
Complex relationship scheme. On top of this, in 2018, charges were brought against Raniere and 5 female members for a number of crimes, including extortion, sex trafficking, and the list goes on. Raniere got 120 years in prison. As of 2020, a number of groups branched from Nexium are said to be active and recruiting.
We didn't even know that we were being experimented on. We thought we were just kind of learning and growing, but really they were observing and watching how we responded to the lack of sleep, how we responded to lack of food, how all of these things affected our psyche, and we were very weak. We were weak mentally and we were weak physically.
Check out these other clips from Watch Mojo.
And do y'all
be sure to subscribe and ring the bell.
What was it that Lori Vallow said, that she's an exalted being now, and she doesn't have to eat. Remember that? She doesn't have to sleep. Remember? I wonder if that was part of building these delusions that became so real that she was willing to see the death of her children because she believed they were zombies. That somehow by ending the lives of the physical bodies of her children, that their souls would be released and go on, to another plane. It's so frightening. I've got something here I want you to listen to. I'm going to give you a trigger warning, because I'm suggesting something that maybe you haven't thought of it, maybe you didn't think of it that way, but after listening to the top 10 cults, seeing how they operate, I want to direct you to a recording. You may not want to listen to it. You may not want to stay for this part of the video, so I'm just giving you fair warning. And then after we listen to it, then we're not going to listen to like the whole thing. I'm not going to do that. But we're going to do that, and then this will be toward the end, and then we're going to sing happy birthday to Sketty Nona. All right. Of course I'm going to embarrass you, Sketty Nona. Okay. Just 1 minute. Let me change my, present. Dun 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. Okay, here we go. I think I'll start about somewhere here.
I don't want to wear foundation every day, so I do this.
Let them do their money thing. Okay. This is the patriarchal blessing that was given to Alex.
You will continue to do so as you move forward in this life.
Okay, so he's got this creepy, weird.
I don't want to wear foundation every day.
Creepy, weird tone in his voice to begin with, right? But I'm going to go back to the beginning and listen to the difference, okay?
Religion.
It is.
And what religion is that?
So patriarchal blessing is attached.
I am Chad Daybell. It is November 24th, 2019, Sunday afternoon, 5:15 p.m. We're going to give Alex Lamar Cox a patriarchal blessing.
Okay, so you hear his voice. He's talking in a fairly normal cadence. The tone is stronger, a little bit higher, in what do you call it? Lost my word. It sounds normal. It sounds regular. He's just talking. He gives the date. It's very informative and just seems very normal. But I also want you to listen. Do you hear a background noise? Just listen.
Chad Daybell. It is November 24th, 2019, Sunday afternoon, 5:15 p.m. We're going to give Alex Lamar Cox a patriarchal blessing.
Okay, do you hear a background noise? No, I don't either. It's not a very good recording. Sounds like it's just like a phone or something that's set to record. Lots of air, that you can hear. Dead space, if that's what you want to call it. So you don't hear anything. You just hear Chad. He's talking normal. Well, what's normal? Well, it's normal from Chad. Okay, so now we're going to go about halfway in. And I want you to listen to the tone of his voice and the background noises.
This time the Savior is saying it to me. Well done. Thy soul is cleansed. All is well. And now you'll begin into your terrestrial phase of this existence. And you'll be a powerful servant. I bless you with that knowledge that you will now move forward as a true warrior. Lay down one day spirit will leave this body, and you'll be greeted wholeheartedly and welcomed by the Savior himself. You will already know him, but that reunion will take place in a greater plane that the spirit you feel at that time, the vibration will exceed all. And before the second coming even
It
occurs,
is gross,
the
Winston.
Savior will let that body rest a day or two, and much like himself, you will be raised
Yeah,
and
I
be
think he.
resurrected.
I
So
think
that
they are.
when the Savior does
That
return,
there is a sex act
you will be
happening.
right at the front of that amazing team of angels. It will sweep the earth, much like described in the renewed earth. You will be there. It will bring you great joy to help Mother Earth transfer to a terrestrial realm, to burn away the celestial refuse. At that time, you and Holly will still have assignments here temporarily, but then you'll move forward. She's already prepared.
So you know, I don't need to like keep playing that, because everybody, like, it's on my channel. If you want to go back and listen to the whole thing, there are parts in it that are much worse. It's very clear what's happening. That's right, Scarlett. Yes. Thank you for not making me say that. Thank you. No, I absolutely am certain of it. And there is a part of here where there's no question. He sounds like he climaxes. So again, remember, the only reason, you know, that I'm bringing this up is that connection to using sex as a manipulative drug to assert control and dominance over people and I know facing reality, it's horrible, and I apologize. I know, Sketty Nona, I didn't play the most horrible part. Yeah, it's bad. So what the reason I'm bringing that up is because we still have one more thing that I haven't drawn attention to, and I'm going to tell you this. Do you remember when during Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing, do you remember when he kept trying to force Melanie Gibb to say that Lori was like a sister? And she refused. Do you remember that? So again, I offer this information as foundation for why I believe that Chad Daybell educated himself, watched Warren Jeffs, listened to the content that was on YouTube, learned how to do this, and that is why it starts out sort of, well, I have visions. And then we end up at this place of complete and total abomination, where babies are killed, where good people are murdered for money. And finally, why? Why did they lose their lives for money, for this insurance payout, right? Because when they were arrested, there was no money. We know that now. The evidence from the stand, he was able to transfer what, $8,000 to each of his kids? Considering though that he got over $500,000? What did they do with the money? Here's what I think happened to the money. I think all of this killing, Boudreaux, they wanted Boudreaux dead. They also said that Melanie Pulowski's kids were dark. Well, Brandon Boudreaux was an insurance salesman just like Charles Vallow. So you know that those children had insurance on them as well, right? So the question is, what would they have done with all that money? I think they were going to build the temple, just like Warren Jeffs did here in Texas. I think the morning that JJ dies, Melanie Gibb and David Warwick are in the house. They're in Lori's apartment. And what do? The morning after JJ dies, they take him out to a spot of land. And now, after the trial, the testimony, we know that they were saying to David Warwick, don't you see it? Can't you see the sparkling, shimmering, magical, metaphysical temple? And he said on the stand, I never did. They wanted all this money to build this temple like exactly what Warren Jeffs did. I am convinced. I am convinced. Evil. Absolutely evil. All right. Okay, so what do you guys think? I know it got really weird, and I apologize for that. I know those babies, Melanie P, are alive by luck. Absolutely, Yvette. And so the people that worked for the company that Charles Vallow and Brandon Boudreaux worked for, they were terrified. They were all here in Houston. Right, Winston? I know, it's pretty horrible. They were all terrified. They firmly believed that they or their children would be next. They were all so frightened because they recognized, they said they saw the pattern where the people that were dying had these large life insurance policies. But again, where did the money go? Because they didn't have it when they were arrested. They still don't have it. They don't know where it is. Again, because there is a bigger group. Chad and Lori were pawns. There's a bigger group. Someone's got the money. Someone has the money. Someone's got that money. All right. Sketty Nona. Is she still here? Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sketty Nona. Happy birthday to you. All right, everybody, hashtag happy birthday, Nona. I'm not going to talk anymore until you say happy birthday, Sketty Nona. It's a birthday. Yes, absolutely. Agree. Yes, Jay. I would agree with you. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Facing Reality. Thank you, Scarlett. Thank you, Jay. Hey, DB. Yes, DB. What do you think about this? It's terrible. Thank you, Fariba. I can't listen to Sal. She infuriates me. Everything about her infuriates me. It was so hard to watch, Diane. It was so hard to watch. Thank you, Moonlight View. Thank you, Desired. All right, very good. I hope you have a wonderful day, Sketty Nona. You deserve it. You're a sweetheart. Okay, everybody. So I'm hesitant. This video, the Unholy, this is on my YouTube channel, and it's the patriarchal blessing that you can hear the whole thing if you're interested. It's gross. All I say is have, a bucket nearby because you're going to be grossed out. It's creepy too. How many of you guys experienced it as almost feeling evil? Like the first time I listened to it, I was like, holy hell, this is like something like a coven, like chanting or some kind of like devil worshiping chants, right? It was awful. It's terrifying to listen to. So, hey, sweet Melissa. So yeah, it's there. if you want to listen to it. I don't recommend it. It's pretty awful. But if you don't believe me, if you just have to, fact check, it's there. All right. I'm really hesitant to say I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know how much of it was enjoyable, but I hope you found it informative at least. And I really would be interested in knowing your opinion on some of the parallels, some of the connections that I draw. Have I convinced you that Chad may have been looking for information on his next step by going to some of these fundamentalist, culty type organizations? So I hope that you'll leave a message, leave a comment underneath the video. Whatever your opinion, your thoughts on the issue. And I'm sorry, I hope I didn't traumatize you too much with the unholy blessing. All right. It is Saturday. Sketty Nona is going to be partying like it's 1999. And I'm going to find something relaxing and pure to watch on television tonight after this live. It's pretty horrible. Okay. All right. Y'all are great. Thank y'all so much for being here and supporting me and listening to me run my mouth. I appreciate it. And I hope y'all have a great Saturday night. Thank you for being here. Again, it's a members only video, so it'll stay as members only. All right. Y'all have a good Saturday.